Guys, I got to tell y'all straight. Staying in Golden State would be the best possible, plausible thing for Steph Curry's legacy because, as I see it, Steph Curry's legacy is already cemented. He don't need to chase rings because he's not in that ring conversation for the greatest of all time. He's a three-time NBA champion. Not only that, he went to 5 consecutive NBA finals. You got to go back to like the 1950s or 60s to find someone else who has done such a feat, going to 5 straight with the same team, to be exact. You're talking about a 6-time All-NBA player? Steph Curry, just stay in Golden State because every time you change teams, your legacy takes a hit. See, LeBron James, he changed teams, went to Miami. Legacy, it took a hit. The difference was he was able to overcome the hit his legacy took because he won again. You talk about Shaquille O'Neal. When he left L.A. and went to the Heat, his legacy took a hit, but he overcome the hit that legacy took because he won again. Dirk Nowitzki, to me, because I'm from Dallas, he's a top 15 player of all time, primarily because he never left Dallas. 20 years, same team, and now he got a statue up outside the arena. So, Steph Curry, staying in Golden State is the best thing for your legacy because you don't need to go chase rings and no shiny things like so many other dudes. You've already accomplished everything you needed to accomplish, and you did it by the team that brought you in. So, Slick Rick, I'm bringing you in to answer the question for me. What's best for Steph Curry's legacy? Is it leaving or staying with the Warriors?
I agree with all that you said, Acho. I know that's a rarity, but I do. However, staying with Golden State still is the second best thing that he could do.
Talk to me.
No, he should not. He should not leave to chase rings. But staying in Golden State is also not going to get him a ring. And I know how delusional Warriors fans are right now living in the Bay Area. They believe as soon as Klay comes back, oh, we're right back on that championship horse again. And the reality is the dynasty is over. They're not going to get back there again. They had the dynasty when they were paying Steph, in particular, $11 million a year before they had to pay Draymond Green, before they had to pay Klay Thompson. Getting back there is not realistic. And what's going to happen is there's going to be disappointment as a result of the fact that the expectations are so high and they're not going to meet them. But he shouldn't chase rings either. To your point, it's part of his legacy and his brand and his reputation that he is loyal. But there is one place that he could go that would add to his legacy. And it's not about adding rings. It's going back home to Charlotte, North Carolina, and the Charlotte Hornets, and lifting that team the same way that he lifted the Golden State Warriors. That would add to his legacy, and I dare say the people, even in the Bay Area, would not begrudge Steph that move because it would be in keeping with who he is.
Interesting, interesting. CB, your thoughts?
Yeah, that was interesting. First of all, Acho, like Rick, look, I agree with what you said. Everything except Dirk being the top 15 player, but that's another conversation for another day.
I'll let that go.
Rick, you had me intrigued, Rick, but Charlotte, here's the problem with going to Charlotte. They're not going to win a championship, right? He wouldn't lead them to a championship.
Right.
They'd be good, but they're not beating Brooklyn, probably not Philadelphia. You know, they're not winning there.
Nope.
So you're right.
Nope.
Golden State's fans probably wouldn't be upset because you're going home. You help MJ's team. You make Charlotte relevant and maybe a contender.
Sing it,
definitely
Broussard.
not winning the East. So why
That's
do
fine.
it then? Why go? If you go back and if they were in a place where you add Steph and you can win a ring, I'm with you.
Yep.
But outside of that, I can't do it. Now let me say this. He shouldn't go to the Lakers for all the reasons Acho said. Even if he went there and, say, won 2 rings with LeBron, that's not really helping Steph's legacy. He's already viewed as the greatest, in many people's eyes, the greatest small player ever. He's the greatest shooter of all time. He's the architect of the greatest dynasty since the Shaq-Kobe Lakers. And he can't really add to that because 5 rings isn't going to put him ahead of the people that are ahead of him, like Magic and like LeBron and like Larry Bird and guys like that. So he loses more than he gains if he goes to the Lakers. However, I'll throw one caveat, and I still don't know that it makes sense. But what if the Brooklyn Nets run through the league this year? They go through the Eastern playoffs, lose maybe 2 games. They get to the finals and play the Clippers or the Lakers or whoever is out of the West and win in 5 or sweep them. If they look like the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, then you will see teams trying to put together a juggernaut that can compete with that team. That's the only way that you could make any sense of Steph going to the Lakers to say, okay, we got to put together something that could beat the Lakers. I think it'd be better getting Dame Lillard because he needs a ring or rings, but he's always said he wouldn't join the super team. So if I'm Steph, I'm saying to LeBron, when LeBron calls, why don't you come to Golden State? People expect you to move around. You come join me.
Hey, CB, I love rapping with y'all. I love rapping with y'all basketball heads because y'all can talk off the cuff. So I'm going to bring up an off-the-cuff conversation. Slick Rick, you purely and thoroughly gave your answer. CB, you thoroughly gave your answer. I was thinking about this. One of the reasons Steph doesn't need to go anywhere is because he's one of the top 5 most influential basketball players in the last 30 years. I look at Michael Jordan. I look at Allen Iverson as far as what he did for the culture of basketball. I look at Shaquille O'Neal. When Shaquille O'Neal left, the true bigs started to leave. We're just now seeing it with a couple guys in the NBA. I look at LeBron James because he is the King James. And then I have Steph Curry. Trae Young wasn't shooting from the logo before Steph Curry. Bron wasn't even shooting from the logo before Steph Curry. Dame Lillard surely wasn't shooting from the logo before Steph Curry. Where do y'all see Steph Curry as far as the most influential or one of the most influential players in the history of the game? CB, I'll go to you first.
I didn't agree with, was it Shaq that said he's the most influential over the last 30 years? I would go with Jordan, clearly. But I think Steph is second for the reasons you said. I was listening for Kobe on your list. We can argue if he's in the top 5, but I would go with Steph second just because, to your point, I mean, we can go to gyms throughout the country now. What are we going to see? Little kids shooting 20-foot shots at 8 and 9 years old. And as you mentioned, all these guys that are shooting these deep threes, it is all because of Steph Curry. Look, you can't say this about many players. Steph Curry changed the game of basketball.
Correct.
He changed the game of basketball. And for all the detractors that want to say Kevin Durant got him rings or whatever they may want to say, you can never argue this guy changed basketball. So I think he's second only to Michael Jordan.
Wow, slick.
I can't separate Steph from the Warriors. If Steph demonstrated what he did in shooting from range, would that have become a thing if it wasn't part of the Warriors winning championships? In and of itself, shooting from that range. I mean, let's flip it around. Trae Young comes in and he's that first guy doing it with the Atlanta Hawks. Does that suddenly become a thing that Dame Lillard and every other perimeter player wants to be able to do? And then do teams allow them to do that? So I do believe he's influential. I do think he's the best shooter that we've ever seen. But that extending the range, I just can't separate it. I think the Warriors are the most influential team that we've seen in the last 30 years because they've changed the way the game is played. But that has much to do with Draymond Green being a point forward, Klay Thompson being equally adept at shooting from range as Steph. I just can't take that away. They took a small ball to a new level, and Steph was a part of that. Now, you asked me, CB, like, why would he go to Charlotte if he can't win rings there? Well, he can't win rings in Golden State. I think we've established that dynasty is run. If he goes anyplace else to win rings, even if he goes to the Lakers, there's always been this low rumble of whether is Steph really Batman or Robin. He's Batman, but he wasn't necessarily the best team.
Who been rumbling?
On the he wasn't the best player on the Warriors when he had Kevin Durant next to him. So was he real? Like, he's always been seen as this kind of selfless leader. And to me, the most selfless, wholesome, humble act that he could make is to go back to Charlotte and lift that team to relevance that it's never experienced before. Is he going to play for championships or rings? No, but he would do something for Charlotte and for the Hornets that maybe nobody else could do, and nobody would begrudge him that. And that, to me, would add to his legacy. His legacy is he's a great player. He's a better person. What would be greater than making a sacrifice like going back to Charlotte and finishing your career trying to take them up however many notches you could?
I hear you, Slick. I hear you. And we don't got enough time for me to address the Steph Curry being a Robin conversation. That's a whole nother conversation that we were going to divulge in next time I see y'all too. But I know this much. He's the only unanimous MVP in league history. Steph Curry is a dude. And if he was ever a Robin, it's because he wanted to be, not because he had to be.